Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. I have a doozy of a game for you guys, a knockdown, drag-out fight between myself and Lieutenant Colonel RNG Jesus Died for Our Sins, who is, it's an alt for a buddy of mine, Quicksilver, who, as you guys may recall, really helped me out a lot when I was getting into the game, and was probably my first teacher in Wargame proper, so I always have really hard fights against Quicksilver, or against RNG, as we'll call him on this one, because, well, how do you fight someone who taught you how to pick up the game in the first place, right? It's very tough. So, on this particular match, I'm playing as Landjut, and he's playing as Entente, and the first thing you have to figure out when somebody's playing Entente is it Entente or Entente mech? So we're going to be looking for the veterancy. We see 3 right away on the BVPs, and 2 on some of these things here, which is a little inconclusive, maybe, because 3 and 2 are quite possible on other things. 3 sort of tells me unspec, but we'll see. We'll see. So we're going to be taking a look out for that, and my opener is really a split opener. I've decided to defend in golf. I have some Livgarden 85 here, I have some Spiderna, I have not very much there at all, it's just meant to hold that rear town, and my intention was to not do a full Bravo reach around, but sort of to go up through here and try and take this town if I could. If not, that's fine. I want a presence in Bravo, and really I just wanted to play a more defensive game here, and slowly get value in Foxtrot and try to win that way. So if I can nullify Golf, Bravo, Foxtrot, then it's sort of an even game. And right away there's some problems with this. First off, I'd say it's not a good idea to have a defensive game plan when you haven't capped your own 2-point and your opponent does. This is sort of an indicator of, oh, well, I have more points on the ground than he does right now, and I'm not using them aggressively, which I should be, but I can't because this composition doesn't allow me to do that. So right away there's a bit of an issue with that game plan. It's actually part of why I pushed through into Bravo with these Fallschirmjäger, instead of waiting for the Dragoner that's behind them to catch up. I mean, the Fuchsmilans are just faster, unfortunately, 60 versus 105 off-road. And I had wanted to get up into this town before anything else could really get up here. And right away, I mean, there's nothing there right now. Lots of people will put light defenses sort of in these 2 town blocks, and that's what we see. We see Graniciari, there's some sort of ATGM here, and we have contact up on the high ground. Unfortunately, Paderborn C90 do get a shot off on my 2A4, very nearly 2, but they do switch targets into the M41A1s. And, I mean, this is a nice little pickup for me if I can get it, and that's an M91 Vihor. This is unspec, because the heaviest tank that mech gets is, of course, the M84 and the M84A. So, I mean, technically same thing, different optics. So right with that, we have some nice kills in Foxtrot, we have some good-ish forward position in Bravo, but this isn't really supported against things like helicopters or planes too much. I don't have any anti-air over there. It's not a full push in Bravo, it's just a, hey, I'm here, try and deal with me. And we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, Proletary 90 and more infantry, and the Sava even, moving over in Foxtrot. Now, whenever you play against Entente, you have to be really mindful of their plane tab. Of their anti-plane capabilities, so you have to be not overbuying your own plane tab, and that's because of things like the Sava, which will 2-tap planes more often than not. Well, maybe not more often than not, but certainly very often. And you also have to be aware of things like the Neva M1T, which is a very common, very popular, non-radar, hard-hitting anti-plane piece. So when I see this as Entente, and particularly Entente unspec, we're going to be a little bit careful about our plane usage, and right here, right now, I felt kind of okay about this, because, well, we got some good picks. I know there's an M91 back there. My 2A4 and the M91... You know, I think the M91 might be slightly at an advantage there, but it's only very slight. And I can bring out a bunch of 2A4s and my 2A5s if need be. So this is where things get a little bit tricky. I didn't manage this all that well, and the HTNRZs, they're goofy. They're 45 points because of the 8 strength, and most people consider them basically worse than their 35 points MI-17 cousins. But they do hit pretty hard, especially if there's nothing there to kill them, and they are, because of that 8 strength, a bit more resilient against small arms fire, although they still take the full amount of damage from it. So, at this point, my goal was to get a CV in Charlie. I don't trust RNG more than I can throw him, and so I got an tank CV for Charlie, which I think is probably fine. It's just coming out very late, so I'm going to be nearly 10 minutes behind at +1 tick once this gets out here, which is definitely a challenging thing. So, I don't even know if I necessarily got the advantage I need out of it. So here I'm trying to get the Fallschirmjäger up into the woods. I wanted to take out that Hera too, oddly enough, and the Plummen is not necessarily a surprise. So if I stay here, it's just going to be painful. If I get up into the woods here, Then I can kill Hera 2s, I can kill some reinforcements, these are BVPs, which means there's probably Mechanizavana or even Proletary up there if I'm not too careful about it. And then we peek up here and we get some more kills, and hopefully do that and then run back again. So stun Padabransi, 2A4, 3 M41s, and that should be, right there, another really nice pickup. So we're taking nice pickups where we can get them. Even if I lose a couple M41s for this, that's fine. Especially if I can pull in the M91. So there's a Sava behind here. But that's one doink right there, and now my 2A4 probably could take that fight if it was healthy. It's not. So I got a little bit scared, I'm running away, I'm keeping the Tiger outside of the range of that Sava. We do go up and kill the Hera. This is a fairly positional game, but it's one that is a little bit, or at least enough right now, in our favor. So the Sava moving back here, Vihor, T55A is Vidyach, and that's when I decided to get a little bit cheeky with that plane tab, a block 5 coming in, and this was a decision point. I thought, okay, this Vihor is half dead. If I right-click on it, I'm probably going to get the kill there. But he is going back toward this section of woods, and I'm not sure I can maintain line of sight off of the Tiger. So instead, I could go for the T55 and the Sava, and that's still a fair amount of value. That's going to be 65 off the Sava, 25 off the T55. And because of the vertical drop pattern on that block 5, I didn't even have to right-click. That was just a fire position, center of mass. I think I went right about here for my click. And we get 2 nice kills. So that certainly had no complaints about. 90 points worth of value off of a 105 point plane on the first pass, and we got out. And it peels back some of my opponent's anti-air, which makes my Tiger a little bit safer, and it makes him have to rebuy his backline. So one thing you'll notice, I'm getting some Dragoner to defend the backside of Bravo here. This was because, in part, I didn't secure this section of town, which I probably should have. But yeah, I don't know. I think you really need to lock this down, because otherwise, if you end up fighting in Bravo and you're fighting against the towns up front here, and you're trying to prevent sneaks, it can be really, really obnoxious. And that's one of the things about Hell, is like, if I'm defending against sneaks on Bravo, if I'm defending against sneaks on Golf, I'm gonna have a really hard time of it. And there it is, first red unit that just decided to take a highway route, come over here, have some fun, look at those Spaderna. It's a good time for everybody. And in the meantime, while I'm looking at that, Fallschirmjäger versus Padabransi 90. This is going to be a little bit rough considering my guys are panicked, they're damaged from that forest fire, and it's not going to be an even fight, where ordinarily I think the Fallschirmjäger would actually come out on top, healthy versus healthy, but there's even more. So there's 2 units up top, there's 2 units to the side that are about to catch me right there, and my Fallschirm are well and truly dead. Plus, I mean, that many Padabransi and Proletary, yeah, I'm not going to be holding Bravo for very long, so now I need to look for something else, because I can reinforce in there. Honestly, I probably should have been pushing into Foxtrot and getting over the top of the hill, trying to get into the back line of my opponent's reinforcement route there, because if you can come up to the top and you can sort of control this a little bit, if you can lock down this section of highway, then all of a sudden, in order to get into Bravo, Red has to pull in the reinforcements back to here, then go through. So if I can lock down the road here, and get something over to block this choke point, then Bravo becomes really tough for my opponent to reinforce into. As it stands, I'm just getting absolutely mauled by some elite and shock infantry backed up by an HT-NRZ that I had nothing there to deal with. So really rough, really nice kill list on that NRZ 128. Bit of a rare thing to see, so it is one of the reasons to feature this, is it's just a little unusual, but I mean, when it works, man. So block 5 coming in, this is a sheer neuron activation, as they say, and I didn't even know on what I was going for that HT-NRZ. We get 1 hit, but it's alive, and I don't know, this was a bit of a waste. It was a bit of a, you know what, I'm going to come in and see if I can save these last Dragoner and get a kill for a little bit of revenge, because, you know, I mean, 2 units of Dragoner, 2 double stacks is 40 points with the infantry alone. If I can kill the helicopter, it's 45. It's part of what makes the NRZ 128 a little bit questionable, is it's so easy to get return on investment for killing it compared to the MI-17. Those 10 points really do make a big difference there. So we bring out the Fuchs, and I want a cap on Foxtrot, and the Patu Tiger is back, healed up, rearmed. Well, mostly rearmed. I went over there and killed that BVP. And I decide, you know what, let's get a little bit of stress going on this side, and let's just attack in here, see what there is, because it seems like I've let some opportunities go by being a little bit too passive, which is a common theme for me. So I often play a little bit too passively. We'll figure it out. We're getting used to trying to push for a little bit more. And as part of that, I'm getting a second 2A4, and I figured, you know, if my opponent wants to bring M91s, that's fine. I'll get double 2A4, I'll get some chaff in front of it, we'll go up there, we'll punch the M91s, we'll get some good kills, and go on from there. In the meantime, a little bit of probing attacks from RNG here, Mechanizavana versus Livgarden 85. My guys are in a town, not going to be good for the Mechanizavana, but it was really just there to establish what I had in the area. Now, here's another thing where I'm paying for that late cap on the +2, because I've gotten a +1 cap on Foxtrot, but I need to hold it for 9-ish minutes in order to even out the score, let alone get a win. And that's going to be quite a long time, so I need to make something happen. I need to get value in places that prevents my opponent from capping on his own. And I say that fully well knowing that, okay, knowing this guy, he's probably already got a cap going for Bravo. That would be what I would do if I was him, and I had just cleared this thing out. It looks relatively safe. Especially if you can get a couple of flanking units, or even just a recon helo back here that I can no longer see, and gets Bravo more than enough secure to get a cap there, and that denies me the +1 tick, and I have to then either take in Golf, or try and, yeah, okay, so a little bit wrong there, it was a cap in Golf, and I guess that's probably fair, because Golf has seen no aggressive action from my side the whole time. Now I'm toast again, so I need to figure this out, I need to do something about it. And the best thing I could think of was, okay, well we have both the 2A4s here now. I have Spaderna, triple M41, Dragoner, and the M113G, more Dragoner on this side. In hindsight, I almost would have liked to have tried to secure this town as well. And I really want to see about... Man, my S's are not kind to me today. I really want to see about getting that town earlier on in the opener, because I feel like this could be a really powerful thing to leverage. Especially if you could get up onto the high ground for just a little bit and you help secure it, and then you pop in there, you get recon, you get an ATGM. That seems like a really tough position, especially if I can get anti-air somewhat near behind it. The risk is, how do you deal with ATGMs in Bravo? It's pretty tough. So, block 5 coming in, and I was clustering on top of my opponent's, hopefully tanks. Instead, it's just the BVPs, and that was a little bit rough. But my plane does get out, and it did tell me, okay, he has anti-air back here. And now I think we're going to start up with the Howitzer Special. Now, I do take, I take these down-bedded in Landjut, at least most of the time. Sometimes they're up-bedded, but you lose a little bit of accuracy on that, but you can really just pound into people. So I buy 2 of these oftentimes when I see fragile backline positions. We go in, we get kills on them, then we buy a couple more, we get more kills on them, we've made up our value, because these guys are 70 points apiece. Oh, 70 points apiece. And that can often be a really oppressive thing in the late game, to just keep using them. The resupply is comparatively cheap, so you won't really burn through the fob all that quickly, and you just get some really nice kills if you can. So here, the targeting, not exactly on point. I thought the missile came from over here on the left-hand side. It didn't, it was over here on the right, and because of that, the Nevamit took no damage and is going to get out. But I think here was the biggest opportunity. So we have the 2A4s going up, 1-2 of them, a little bit ahead of the Dragoner and the boxes, not exactly ideal. But I also do have Dragoner here, and I thought we'll get into the woods. Probably should have used some Fallschirmjäger to get in there as well, and I have an ASF just saying, hey, no bombers please, because Entente can bring a bunch of vicious bombers, including the Thermomig, and I at least wanted to make sure that that was a trade instead of something for free. So we're moving up on Foxtrot, and the next thought for me here is, if this works, then I can sort of shunt down into the woods here and maybe threaten the CV and Golf if I can. That would be a pretty nice thing. Plowman is very, very danger close to the front, but there it is, double V-Hort, killing my M41s, and if I can get over in time, this is a great pickup. 130 points apiece, and 1 gun online, bam! There he is. So that's one 130 point kill. It's exactly the engagement I wanted to take with those. Get the kill while he's killing my 10-point recon tanks. It's just fine with me. And we just retreat back because I don't want to be going in blind against that back line there, because, well, things like this can happen. That's quad BVP, Mechanizavana. Enough Mechanizavana still will do significant damage. Their secondaries are not anything to be taken too lightly. There's a Super Gallop, and KWS comes in, gets the kill. Now, Neva M1T, position discovered again. I should be already refiring those artillery. You can see they're starting to aim right now on that Neva M1T position, and this could be a really excellent thing. Actually, you know, I might have been pounding away at here as well. So it's a little bit tough. This was a really, really nice reinforcement timing from my opponent, because without these BVP and Mechanizavana, I would have been able to definitely solidify a hold here on the top. As it is, we do get that last shot. Bam! Trading a 2A4, but I get the second kill. It's not as clean as I would have liked, but it is still a kill on a 130 point tank, and I am still ahead on board position for tanks. So, well, board presence for tanks, not position. I've been rebuffed, so that was not exactly ideal. I do also have 2 mortars out, 2 more mortars coming out. I love mortars when I play as Landjut. It's a defining part of my playstyle here because it's just so effective at killing infantry. And Dragonar, as good as they are, I tend to find that, well, every infantry fight's improved by mortars. So we're pounding away here, hoping for a kill in the Neva M1T, but a nice move from my opponent. Whenever this thing fires, he just pulls it to a different location, so I haven't been able to lock anything down there, and that is negatively impacting the state of the game for me, because these guys are expensive enough that they need to get their value. Whether that's from infantry, whether that's from firing known positions, they need to get kills one way or another. And usually most people won't be moving things that quickly, and so I get a couple of backline kills easily here against an opponent who knows to look for it, because again, he's seen me do this any number of times, and certainly is responsive on avoiding it. That can be a really difficult thing to do. So this was a little bit brain dead. I have Panzergran up here, but there's an HTNRZ. These guys, their sole job is to have line of sight right here to prevent me from getting into these woods. So in particular, this was placed up there when I was threatening the top side of the plateau, which is a very nice decision from my opponent, because it just says, well, you're not going to be able to push me everywhere at once. Ordinarily, if I'm up here and these guys aren't there, I can get something through and I can challenge the woods, I can challenge this town. It gets real bad real quick. However, we did see, I don't know if you saw it, yeah, right there, Paderborn C90, and I'm trying to get some good mortars in, but it's a little bit tough. These guys are so fast in the woods, and the aim time is non-zero. It's actually part of why I really like 3HE mortars as well. The aim time is just a little bit faster, and so the mortars get on the way a little bit faster, and can be a bit more difficult to avoid. And at this point, we're just going to be pre-firing because, you know what, I'm sure even if there isn't a CB here, there's something, and that something is going to end up regretting existing when I have 3 10HE howitzers shooting in. So, I don't know, we're 20 minutes in, well nearly, we're 17 minutes in, and I have a lot of ground to make up. But we've had some good trades, and now this is where things get even more untenable, because Bravo's capped, I'm now fighting against a +1, and my attempts on the flanks have singularly failed. And this is one of those things where, to me, this is a game I look at after, and I think, how could I have avoided this situation? How could I have done better to prevent this from really being an issue? And it's a hard one to answer, because let's say I go all in on golf. Well, then I'm basically giving Bravo away for free. By the way, Foxtrot capped just a second there for red. And if I do a split push, then I don't really have much in the middle. And if I do a big Foxtrot push, well, then I still don't have much in Bravo, and I end up losing Bravo really any way that doesn't fully commit into it, which is pretty rough. It's not ideal. So, I don't know. I think with my current strategy, I would have probably been better off really trying to dominate the center of Foxtrot. We had some good trading there, and if I can hold a forward position, then I can leverage that into a good golf side late game. And I think a bit more aggression there early on, a bit more focus here early on, instead of having that big investment in Bravo that didn't really work on much, even though it did draw reinforcements from red to deal with me in Bravo. I don't know. I think that could have been a game changer. So, we get a couple of kills there, but I lose my Tiger to a Prochka, which is a very nice pick. It's a little situational, but it has really, really high anti-helo range, and having already seen a Sava, I wasn't expecting it. So people don't tend to bring both of those tools all the time, because if you think about your support tab, you have the 30-point wield, usually the Spatpov, then you have your Sava, then you have your anti-plane, whether that's the Neva or the Neva M1T. People don't usually take 4 cards of anti-air. So what my opponent has done here is his Prochka is his wheel anti-air, and it's situational, but in those situations it's incredibly powerful. So, yeah, I think it was a good pick. It certainly will surprise people, and it cost me a Tiger right there, which is a big thing to lose. So at this point, I think I've also been a little bit overbuying artillery and under-pressuring the front. If we look a little bit at Red's position, if I could have dealt with these guys, there's just Mechanizavana here, there's just Bridgka there, there's really, both of us are ignoring golf, and I think pivoting into here would have been quite successful. Instead, yeah, these guys do what they're supposed to. So, bye-bye, Panzergran. Not having a very good day, are ya? And, I don't know, even if we look up top here, there's Mechanizavana, more Mechanizavana, there's a single M91A, there's an M84AN, but this guy's just getting here, and I've had my replacement tank out there for a little bit now. At least I'm pretty sure... Oh, no. No, I didn't. Yeah, so up until that point, it would have been an even fight at best, and having killed both of them, that that M91 is a new reinforcement. So I think I think I got a little bit scared, which, you know, that happens. I'm a brigadier general, I'm playing against lieutenant colonel. Everyone who's been in that situation on the reverse side of it anyway in ranked knows that when you're a lieutenant colonel, you go against a brig, you go, okay, well shit, this is going to be hard. And I think based on how this goes, and frankly my respect for my opponent Quicksilver here, it went a little bit the other direction, where I was sitting there going, well, maybe if I push now it'll just be an overextend and I can lose the game that way. Because you can definitely lose the game by overextending, but you can't let fear of that prevent you from taking advantage of genuine opportunities on the ground. So it's a little bit of give and take there. It's a little bit hard to judge. And sometimes, I mean, this is why nobody wins 100% of their games, right? And you'll see brigadiers sometimes losing to sergeant majors. I remember I was watching, I was watching somebody stream the other day, and it was a really tough game against a sergeant major. And then all of a sudden, it stopped being a, oh, hey, this sergeant major got a goofy, nice position on me. It became a, oh shit, this sergeant major might well peel off a win, and you know, it does happen. People with 20% win rates, they win, well, 20% of the time. So never take anything for granted, but also don't try to play scared against somebody, because it's never something that'll end up worth it. Sometimes you have to be able to take those risks, and if I had earlier, I wouldn't have been getting shot by BVPs back here that didn't exist. This situation actually would have gone better than it currently is. So yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. So here we have a little bit of panic as well, moving up the Martyr 2s to try to intercept without anything in front of them because my replacement infantry hasn't yet arrived, and this is a really sloppy engagement. So my Lift Garden taking it on the chin against Mechanized Zavana, that should have been a nice trade in isolation, and 5 minutes before would have been a nice trade in isolation because these tools weren't there yet. We do get some kills here. The Martyr 2s are a nice thing to move forward in this little slim position between the woods and the hill because they do have very powerful guns, but getting a little bit over our heads there. And BVPs will wreck Martyr 2s if the side armor is what takes the facing first. Proletary 90, of course, will definitely wreck that as well. And all of this stuff is a responsive buy from my opponent to the last couple of minutes. So I do get a cap in Golf, Panzerkampfwagen, and Leopard 2 here, because armored CVs are very nice. And the Block 5's going in to try to get some nice cheeky pickups. Now, I don't think my opponent knew that I saw his M84AN retreat up here. I did, and bam, there it is. Nice kill. And the plane got out again, so I was actually... oh, no it didn't. Well, up until that point, I was having some really fairly good luck avoiding my opponent's anti-air net, but, yeah, I mean, all good things come to an end, right? So, at that point, had that Block 5 gotten its value and then some? Yeah, definitely. But losing that tool in the late game can often not be worth it, even if it is for a nominally good pickup, because other things in the board state have made you a little bit behind, and you need that sort of reliable bomber. So think about too, there's a command tank back here, and not having that cluster bomber could be the difference between me barely killing it and not. So we've stopped the bleed. I have more Fallschirmjäger just sort of hanging out, spotted over in Bravo, not exactly ideal. And quite frankly, I shouldn't have called these guys in here to begin with, because there's a lot of elite infantry that had last been seen over there. And I was doing this to prepare a cap if I needed to. So I was thinking, okay, well, we can cap Bravo if there's maybe 10 minutes to go and I really need that +1, just to split my opponent's attention, and in part because I was making some slow progress here. It's not clean, it's not perfect, but something's better than nothing. So the 2A4 also rotated over, and I thought, let's make this where we want to play, because if I can get that 2A4 forward, if I can get infantry up here forward enough, then we can have a decent time of it. That, by the way, right there is a Yastrib, not the world's most common plane, but really potent rocket pods, L-17K, and all of this is also just trying to draw off anti-air fire, so, I mean, it does, right? It pulls a missile off my KWS, and we still end up with a bit of a waffly engagement there, L-19 versus KWS, and my automatic goes after the wrong target. So I was really kind of annoyed. I wanted the L-19 pick, instead I got an L-17K, which did protect my Tiger, but, I don't know, it was a little bit annoying. And then, I don't know if you guys ever noticed this, sometimes you'll try and click like Martyr 2s or some other transports and infantry up and forward, and they go, oh, you want me in the transport? No. But yeah, a little bit of a goofy moment there. Still, this is nice forward pressure. All I need is eyes on, and my 2A4 can kill that command tank from my opponent, because on-top command tanks, they're nice, but they're no Leopard 2A4. So the only thing I need to avoid is almost certainly this. And I don't think I quite saw it at the time. I was pulling in reinforcements or microing elsewhere, so we are backing up, but a little bit slowly. Oh, there it is. Yeah. I mean, 70 points to Rocket Pod, but it got the job done. It's holding this position. making it harder for my Martyr 2s to move forward. So at this point, one criticism I have of my own composition is I don't have enough. I'm trying to lead with shocks and lead with expensive IFVs, and that's never a good idea. So they're going to end up in bad situations. They're going to end up in just taking the brunt force of things like that Yastreb and things like enemy bombers and artillery that they really shouldn't if you want to get the most value out of them possible. So it was a little bit rough, and certainly that composition didn't help. Well, Plummen didn't help either. Excuse me. So at this point we have the Fuchs Fufu, and I know that's not how it's said, but I mean, it's Fufu, it's okay. And we are going to get a cap here. Live Guardian getting absolutely demolished, but with the counter cap there, I do get a +1. I need all 14 minutes of it, so I need a lot of pressure coming in here. And quite frankly, I needed to not be sacrificing infantry like this. I've never seen somebody use the NRZ 128s that effectively just to zone things out, and it very much took me by surprise. I didn't expect that to be back there. I didn't expect it to be useful, because, I mean, come on, it's the NRZ 128. Everyone shits on this helicopter, but, you know, where it works, it works. So we have Proletary 90, and this is an engagement I was hoping for because my falls should be able to take these guys on without too much trouble. The issue is I haven't actually moved up to engage, so I have 1 fighting against 2, and because of that, the Proletary 90 are overperforming compared to what they should. So this was a missed micro as well, and it's going to cost me a lot, because instead of wiping these Proletary with about 10 men left, equally distributed between the 2 Fallschirmjäger, I lose a Fallschirmjäger outright. And there's no guarantee that I can even necessarily win here. It depends on how quickly that 1 remaining Proletary dies, but that's actually not the one that's being fired at, it's the healthy one. So this was really kind of rough there. Didn't need to be, but it was. And in the meantime, we are now getting through into this section of woods. So this is by no means a complete down and out game, even with a fair number of mistakes, even with this about to be mistake right here. Oh, come on. Oh man, I'm disappointed in myself with that. Oh, goodness gracious. But, you know, you can't be everywhere, so you gotta try and just do your best. Now, I did lose that tank to a V-Horde. We showed some side armor. I was trying to go for the command tank here, and I'm trying to get a constellation prize, but yeah, double Prochka back there, and I've just lost a lot of expensive assets. So that, I think, was probably the pivotal moment of the entire game. Losing the 2A4, losing my replacement Tiger, not being able to use those tools to then project force over here, kill the M84 AK, which again, 19 AP, 15 front, it's no slouch, but it can't really deal with the 19 front armor of a 2A4. And I don't know, maybe I should have brought out more tanks. I don't tend to play with all that many. I tend to go for quality over quantity. I bring 2A4s and 2A5s over a whole bunch of 2A1s. But here, a couple of 2A1s might have actually been a pretty nice thing. So now I've got the 10HE artillery going on. It's not going to do all that much against a tank unless it scores a direct hit. But it can. It definitely can. So to show you this, we've only peeled off 2 health, but it's panicked, it's stunned, it's a lot of unpleasantness for my opponent here, and I almost shouldn't have done it, because that cluster was avoided, strictly because my opponent saw that 10HE artillery and didn't want to stay there. So, yeah, a little bit getting in my own way. You know, that happens, right? That does happen. And now we've just got the Helo herd, we have the command tank right there, I can see it, but I can't do anything about it, and that really just kind of sucks. So, yeah, I don't know, it was a little bit rough. I'm trying to get the Fuchs Milans back here. I've lost my CV and Bravo, so no more +1 tick, and that really does make it so that I either get the kill here or I lose the game. And I suspect from the tenor of this particular replay, you guys might suspect what's going to happen. So, I mean, we're not down and out yet. We're not down and out yet, and in part that's because of this particular push. So I wanted to get a couple of assets up on top. We did that with a couple of things before I brought up the automatic. A little bit of overextend there, and I wanted to kill the HCNRZ. Should have been shooting at the BVPs. So that's a micro thing, that's a targeting priority thing. But I'm not sure if that even really would have made too much of a difference, because there was still infantry right here as well. And they probably could have killed the automatic. This is a bit of throwing everything at the wall, and it looks sloppy, it looks not really clean, it looks a little bit desperate, and it is desperate. But you know, oftentimes I would rather lose the game with nothing left in the tank than lose the game with a nice defensive line that I didn't actually use to try to win. So it was at this point where I kind of said, okay, we need to just pull out all the stops, pull out all the breaks. We win this, or, well, we lose. And I'd rather at least have a dynamic game trying. So that's what we're going to do, that's what we're going to fight for, and I don't know, I was I was thinking about a couple of cheeky things here. M41s can build their own push on their own, which is a little bit goofy. There's that CV. And you'll notice, RNG was expecting this. He immediately saw that I could find it. And we're going to go in, we're going to get the Astrib there, but a little bit too late. So unfortunately my falls die. This is a nice little respite. It's a nice little +1, but it's not going to be quite enough there. And that BRDM2U is, well, it's still going to be safe. So at this point, if my Dragoner had not been dead, I might be able to get vision, and we do. We're seeing it drive up, we're seeing it drive in. That is useful information. And if it stops right here, yeah, well, I think you saw me move the Dragoner. So a lot of people will go up and they'll hide right in this section of town. I can 10 HE that all day, man. And that's certainly going to be a tough thing to deal with. As it is, the MLU is going in for the kill. We did get 2 Fire and Forgets off, and we do get the kill. So, yeah, I mean, that was, it's certainly a contentious game. I should have probably pulled the MLU around and killed that M84, but it's a lot of times a habit that people have, including me, to get the kill and immediately evac, because you don't want to lose something like the MLU to a fighter that was bought in response. Yeah, so at this point we have some units from red here moving down. That Fuchs is spotted and potentially going to be fired at. We actually get a couple of cheeky shots in from the M41s. These guys are just goofy, man. I mean, look at that. That was the side armor of an M91 AV Horde, but 2 shots in, and it's going to be pretty damn damaged. So, yeah, I mean, this is just... I'm not proud of this particular one. Goodness gracious. When in doubt, buy your whole M41A1 tab, right? But it can't actually do anything against a real tank, so a little bit less than ideal. Palman coming in as well. I'm not sure what he was going for with that. But this was the return of the MLU. We get 1 kill and double miss, which really hurts, because if we'd actually gotten that second kill there, then the M41A1 herd could have done pretty well. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, that's why you don't rely on planes. So, okay, we're getting pretty late in the game here. We have only a couple of minutes left. We're going to go at +2 just as this game sort of does wind down here. And I do want to ask if you guys feel so inclined to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons and all that sort of jazz. It does help me out quite a lot. And I'm going to be having a tournament announcement. I know I've been teasing it now for a couple of weeks, but things have gotten a little bit difficult IRL. I had some job trouble. I'm still having some job trouble, not because of anything from this or anything. It was... It's a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't need to be gone into, but suffice to say, moving to a different job I think will be a much better thing for everyone involved. Long story short, safety issue, that's all I'm going to say about it. But because of that, I've really had a harder time getting the channel back to consistent than I had hoped for, so for that I am sorry. And the tournament will be soon, I promise. I've secured some backer funding for tournament prizes. There will be prizes, just like last time. A fair number of them coming out of my own pocket as well. And that's another thing where the channel's numbers really do help me out, because we're still not monetized. So all you guys viewing this are viewing it with no financial return for me, which, honestly, I have fun with it anyway. I don't particularly care. It will make it easier in the future, if we do get to 1,000 subscribers, to use the channel to fund things like more tournaments. And who doesn't like tournaments with cash prizes, right? So that's my goal, and if you guys can help me out to it, that would be a really, really wonderful thing that I would very much appreciate. So, at this point, I just decided, I think he might not even have anything left in Bravo. There's a recap here, so I'm going to risk it for the biscuit. We're going to get Livgarden 85 moving forward. They do have that long-range-ish Carl Gustav M3, and there it is. There's actually command infantry that was placed in here, so you know, if I can get them, that's certainly a thing, if we can get them to move. And we had +2 for a second as well, because the CV here either died or moved. I think I actually killed it. And if I can get that CV dead in Bravo, well, that's a +2 for 5 minutes. It's not quite enough. Well, 5 minutes of +2 is 150 points. Twice, you know, 10 minutes of +1, of course. It's just a matter of if I can get that. And 150 points would actually be a very narrow win here. So, for all that's gone not ideally in this game, we're still in the running. And the things that I have to prevent are a recap in Golf, which I have no real way of preventing right now, a recap in Foxtrot, which I have no real way of preventing right now, and if I could countercap in Bravo, that would be a nice thing. So those are sort of the goals, the last ones that I have left to me. Here it is, there's the CV, and, well, we still call it a vehicle in those infantry. There's a command infantry. Did get the kill there, and that's back to +2. This is a narrow win if I can keep it. I just don't know if I can. So Let's see how this goes. There's HTNRZs coming up again. There's probably going to be some command infantry and command vehicle buys from Red 4. And certainly, I would imagine there's going to be an attempt to kill that Panzerkampfwagen Leopard 2 as well, because there was Red 4 infantry over here. I have Livgarden and Dragoner to try to prevent that, but it's a very narrow screen. And most importantly, for not being able to maintain this, I'm not really pushing anywhere, which is rough. So there's Padelbronze 90 here, and I have to establish some sort of control. So we have 2A5 going up, M41s. I figured the most likely recap for my opponent was on the top side of Foxtrot, so I wanted to prevent that. We're going in against the M91A. We get the first shot. Can we get the second? And... oh... no. So we did trade there, but here a trade is not good enough, because I needed that 2A5 to clear out the rest of it. I needed it to clear out the M84. I needed it to clear out the counter cap here, and even just a minute of +1 instead of +2 is going to be enough to make this game no longer a win. So that was a very worrying thing. There's also Padelbronze 90 here, which can kill a Command Leopard 2 if they get both of their anti-tank weapons online quickly, and because of the Plowman as well. So this actually wasn't a counter cap, this was a Plowman directly landing on my command vehicle. It's part of why Jeeps are bad. One front armor, well, one any armor anywhere doesn't really help against that. The 10 strength can, but we took a Plowman a couple of shots directly to the face. Sometimes you just do, and it doesn't work out too well. That +2 would have been a real nice way to end this complete and utter scrap with RNG Jesus. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it doesn't quite work out. It's a very nice Plowman by my opponent. We get some revenge there. I believe that was a Prachka getting hammered by 10 HE artillery. That's the sort of kills I wanted from those things starting about 20 minutes ago. But with that and with the Bravo cap as well, that's a +0. So 215 points to 179, and actually very nearly more than 215 points for Red, as Fox does get capped. This still would have been an issue even if my CV had survived, but a very dominant endgame there from a very skilled opponent. So let's get into the kills and losses and see how this went, and I think it might surprise you a little bit, because it was certainly not the game that I necessarily expected. We do actually clear out the CV there again in Foxtrot in the last couple of seconds, and I think a little bit of aggression, well-timed aggression, might have changed some things, because kills 40-40 to 33-15, so I was up 700 points and yet could not push him, and that is a note in favor of my opponent's just really excellent defensive play when it counted, and nice board position to retake those zones when you needed to. So 181 to 222, relatively close game. A couple of changes could have been a win, and the MVPs are going to be things like the Leopard 2A4s that got lots of BVP kills, some M91s. Other one didn't shine so much, but even then, pretty alright. And the M110s did eventually get a fair amount of value, plus automatics are always a nice thing to have. So that's going to be all I've got for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.